Hello everybody, and this is Jayden, and welcome back to The Word Is Written. I apologize that this video is again coming out a day late. I know I planned for Wednesday for the videos, but some stuff going on at work. So again, I apologize, and I'm gonna stick to kind of getting them out on Wednesdays, maybe on Thursdays, but just know it's a Wednesday or Thursday thing. Just gonna kind of make it over those 2 days in case something like this happens for a third time. But today's video, we're going to be reading Romans 12:20, and it's kind of about how to treat your enemies. So Romans 12:20 says, "But you should do this. If you have enemies who are hungry, give them something to eat. If you have enemies who are thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you will make them feel ashamed." That's kind of a hard one, isn't it? So what does it mean? So it says, "But you should do this. If you have enemies who are hungry, give them something to eat. If you have enemies who are thirsty, give them something to drink." Again, that's a tough one. So it says, this is telling us that we need to help one another and be kind to one another, even those who hate, or even those who don't like us, or wouldn't help us, or be kind to us. God loves everyone, even those who hate him, and even those who crucified Jesus. If God can love them, we can be kind to those who we do not get along with. So think about that. There are people who we just don't like, whether it's a fellow student at school, a coworker, maybe your teacher, your boss, maybe even someone who you just see on the day-to-day that isn't really necessarily someone you interact with that much, like a customer at work. If you have a place that's open to retail, or open to the public, like I work in retail, so I'm dealing with people all day, every day. And sometimes I just want to smack the person for being a jerk to me, and I shouldn't, and also I can't because I'd lose my job, which at this point I don't really care because I'm done with retail and kind of on my way out. But the thing is though that even they're not necessarily like an enemy, like someone that I'm out to get or that's out to get me. They're just someone who I don't get along with, and the thing is should be like, I have water with me because I work on bikes, so I have a bike on the stand. Behind me is where we have like a workbench kind of, and I have my toolbox. I have water there and stuff. Now this isn't necessarily saying like, if a customer comes up to me and says they're thirsty, be like, oh, here's my water. I mean, like I could, and I would take off the top obviously because I'm not a germaphobe. I don't know how germophobic they are, but I can share. Or if they're hungry, be like, yes, let me take you to, the restaurant that's across the street. No, it means it's saying, yes, you should do this, but it's not saying it in a literal sense. It's basically meaning that we should help one another. We need to be kind to one another. There are times when I need help and it's given to me. There are times when others need help and I give it to them. Like one thing is footwear, where I work. I work at Dick's Sporting Goods, I'll just say that. And they have, like the footwear department, they have a lot of customers every day, and sometimes it gets super busy to the point where they can't handle all the customers. So that's kind of where I guess I come in. They say, hey Jane, can you help them footwear? Of course I say yes. Or the registers, if they get a really long line and they need people to come up and ring, they call me and I say yes, even though ringing is probably the worst thing there because everyone is already pissed off by the time they get to you. So take the anger out on you. They are the lightning rods for the store. So if you work on register at Dick's Sporting Goods, I really have to hand it to you because you guys have just the worst experience with customers. And then the second part of this verse, it says, in doing this, you will make them feel ashamed. So we all can be mean at times, sometimes unintentionally. And when someone responds with love rather than anger, we tend to regret being mean. It makes us feel bad that we treated the person the wrong way. So think about a time you've said something that you regret saying. Maybe it's something you did, and there's something last night that was just, eating me alive that I did. And this was 17 years ago that this happened. I was 5 years old. And I don't even know where this person is today. I don't know if I've ever even crossed their path again. I don't even know what happened to them or where they are. But I did something that wasn't the nicest thing in the world. And I'm just thinking, 17 years later, it's still eating me alive. And I regret doing what I did. And part of me is, why do I regret it so much? And I realized their response. Now, keep in mind it was something I did, not necessarily something I said, something that I did. And they could have done it back. They could have said something, but their response was nothing. They just walked away. And in the moment, I was kind of thinking like, yeah, walk away. But later that day, and now 17 years later, I feel bad about it. So I don't even know if the person remembers what happens, and if I don't even look the same as I did back then. But if you are watching this, I am very sorry. Even though I doubt you probably know who you are. But the thing was, their response was in love. Their response was not, I'm going to be mean back to you, or I'm going to do this back to you, or I'm going to say this. They just walked away. And responding with love sometimes can be just walking away and removing yourself from the situation. Because we're allowed to be angry. It's not that as Christians we can't be angry. We're allowed to be angry. But when we act out of anger, it becomes a sin. Just like we're allowed to be tempted. But when we fall to that temptation, it becomes a sin. We're allowed to be sad. But when we start cursing the person who made us sad, it becomes a sin. So, if you respond in love, they'll regret being mean. Maybe not right in that moment. Maybe you'll be like me. 17 years later is when it really starts eating them alive. But if you respond with love, it's just going to make everything turn out better. Now, why is it important? Why should we help our enemies? This stems back to what Jesus said, and it was the second greatest commandment, which is, and the second is like it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So if we love ourselves enough to feed ourselves, then we should feed others. Jesus also helped everyone, even one of the guards who came to arrest him. As Christians, we are supposed to be Christ-like. One way we can do this is by helping everyone, even our enemies. Think about that. No one thinks about yourself as much as you do. Like, I can guarantee it. I can guarantee 100% that nobody thinks about me as much as I do. No one thinks about you as much as you do. And that's maybe a hard pill to swallow for some of you, but it's the truth. No one thinks about you as much as you do. So if we love ourselves enough to feed ourselves, to give ourselves something to drink, to put clothes on, then why wouldn't we do those for others if we're supposed to love thy neighbors as ourselves? And again, it doesn't mean like the person that lives in the house next to mine. Yes, I have a neighbor, and she lives in the house that is next to my house, but it's not necessarily only her. It could be a friend down the street that I have. It could be the person on the other side of her house, because I live on the corner. So yes, there's a house there. I think it's facing like the wrong way, I guess, in relation to mine. But they are there. They are my neighbors. Or there. Or a little farther away, but there. And there. And again, a little farther away, but there. Like, that. It's not just saying the houses or the people in the houses around you. It means everyone. Literally everyone. I'm like, I have brothers and sisters in Christ who I haven't even met yet. And I'm supposed to be nice to them. But think about it. If I love myself enough to feed them, or to feed myself, then I should be, I guess, nice enough and loving enough to feed them. And again, it can mean if you have leftovers and they're going through some financial troubles, give them the food so that they don't have to buy it. If they don't have, we lost power a few years ago, and my neighbor said she was all electric, her hot water, her stove, all that stuff. And my mom said, hey, if you, want to come over to take a hot shower, you're more than welcome. Luckily, the power went on the next day, so she wasn't without hot water for a while. But it's just it's not necessarily just speaking about food and drink here. I think it really means anything. Even just offering is a way. Like, going back to, for me, working retail. I again, work with bikes, so I sell bikes. And I always say, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to stop by or give us a call. Now, I'm not saying, call me for everything that goes wrong on your bike, hey, this needs to be tightened, I can do it, but they can also do it themselves, but you get what I'm saying. is that I'm offering my help and services if needed. And then, why should we make them feel ashamed? Now, this doesn't say we should make them feel ashamed, but it will, and in a good way. It means that they will see the love in your actions and feel bad for treating you the way they did. It might even make them start acting out of love. So again, go back to a time when you said something or did something wrong. Like for me, that's an incident that happened 17 years ago. I feel bad for what I did because of how they responded. They just walked away. And again, they didn't have to. They could have been mean back, but they weren't. They could have done what I did to them, but they didn't. And looking back at that, I now know that there are going to be people who will probably do what I did to them to me. There are people who will say things to me that I will not appreciate. I have probably some supervisors at work that really want to yell at me, but haven't. I can think of one time they did, but that was well deserved actually. But basically, I need to respond out of love. And sometimes it's just nodding your head and saying, okay, over and over again. Sometimes it's walking away. Sometimes it's even saying thank you. Like there was another time too I can think of where my friends, I don't want to say necessarily ganged up on me, but there was something where they kind of backed me into the corner to admit something. And of course I did. And I was bitter at first, but eventually I'm like, I should be thanking you guys because the truth has set me free. And admitting this really took like a weight off my shoulder. And the making them feel ashamed it's in a good way. They're going to feel bad about what they did. Because I feel bad about what I did 17 years ago. 17 years! That's a long time. In 3 years, it'll be 20 years, and I'll still probably be beating myself up about it. And I don't mean, like, in a bad way, like, not forgiving myself. I just mean saying, like, why'd you do that, Jayden? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And no matter what I do, because, again, I have no idea what happened to this person. I never even learned their name. I mean, keep in mind, I was in kindergarten, and it was someone who was younger than me, and it was a girl, so she was probably about, like, I was 5, so she was probably, like, 3 or 4. And, I mean, again, we're just doing, like, kids stuff, so it's not like, I beat her up or anything, but, like, kid stuff that I now realize is wrong. Because as a kid, what I did was not necessarily wrong, which might have, or I didn't think it was wrong, which might have been why she just walked away. All the people who were there didn't think it was wrong because we were all kids. It was after school on the playground, we're all kids doing kid stuff. And looking back at it, everyone was doing something, like, wrong, basically. And she was probably did something wrong that day because we were all little kids. And I feel bad admitting that I did something wrong. And I know people who I guess hung out with and who did much meaner things to people even younger than her. So, but it still does not justify what I did in any way. But it makes me feel ashamed in the good way of, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to be a mean, horrible, awful person. And again, if I could go back and stop myself, I would. It's really getting to me, so. And again, all I can say is I'm sorry. But to conclude, what we've learned is we should be helpful to our enemies. Help them in any way they can. Whether it's with a project, in school, or at work. Whether it is giving them something to eat or drink. Whether it's, lending them some money to help them out. No matter what it is, you should help your enemies. And second is we can help others see the love in our actions. Our actions should reflect our faith. And if they can see the love in our actions, like I saw the love in hers, then we know, hey, act out of love. Lead by example, right? So again, help our enemies and help others see the love in our actions. So if you have any questions about the video, today's topic, not what I did 17 years ago, but if you have any questions that we didn't really answer or that popped up when you watched this video, you can email us at the.word.is.written@gmail.com. I will also put it up on the screen. And you can share any prayer requests. I always enjoy praying for you guys, and I always ask that you share your prayer requests. And if you have any praises, anything that just God is doing in your life that you're happy about, and you want to share that, please put it in the email. We will not share it in the video unless, I guess, you ask us to. Same with the prayer requests. Those are confidential, definitely between us. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing what your prayer request is, you could always say unspoken, and we will pray for it because God knows what's on your heart and on your mind. So, okay, I'm probably gonna have to cut that out because my screen just randomly turned off. But again, we love you guys. We'll be praying for you guys, and we hope to see you in the next one. And in Jesus' name, amen.